I wish there was more guys that were charismatic and funny and good storytellers with regard. There's a couple like Vadi Vodi. I've watched some of his stuff, and it's like, okay, he can command the crowd and he could tell a good story, but it's, we're gonna be honest. I mean, these guys, Mike Todd, the first, like they're really good storytellers.
Oh, they're good storytellers. They're really good speakers.
Yeah, you do have this fundamentalist group that's like, just preach the text, bro. Just preach tell us what the story. And it's like, well,
Ruslan.
So here's what it comes down to. I would say good art and good literature speak about a part of our life and our existence where it's universally the case and everybody can agree with. So major universal themes that human beings just can say, wow, yeah, I feel that, right?
That good art is capturing some sort of narrative that's universally accepted.
Cross-cultural.
Cross-cultural. Yeah, that's good.
Cross all sorts of stuff. And then the way you fill in that story, I think, there's a freedom of sorts. So before everybody goes into like kind of crazy, almost every single person who's a Christian who goes to church on a Sunday experiences this. So you get a pastor who tells you the heart of, hopefully, the heart of the biblical passage they're preaching from. And then they retell that story differently than another pastor by filling in the details in an artistic manner, in an artistic way. And then sometimes you're like, wow, man, that really spoke to me. And usually it's because of the sort of examples they use to tell the story.
It's also interesting, though, but that you do have this fundamentalist group that's like, just preach the text, bro. Just preach tell us what the story. And it's like, well, if you read the scriptures, Jesus is a lot of times not just preaching the text. A lot of times he's using the elements of stories and parables to drive home these deeper biblical truths, but making them relatable and accessible.
Good preacher, good teacher, good storyteller is going to be able to fill in parts of that story, whether it's background information, whether it's current affairs or current events or current life stuff people could be going through, and be able to, for them, they make it in a way where it's acceptable, palatable. Yeah. You know, you can digest that kind of information and really enjoy it.
Well, where do you think the line is, though, right? Because then the other end of the spectrum will be like, well, what's wrong with a Mike Todd or a Stephen Furtick, where it's really theatrical and it's stand-up comedy almost, right? Like, and then there's like a little bit of scripture scribbled in, and, you know. So like, where would you say the boundaries are? We're talking about preaching now, but I want to come back to the storytelling aspect too.
The boundaries are out of context interpretation, misapplication of biblical text, stuff God hasn't promised that you're saying He has promised, and theological, just being plain and simple theologically wrong. Or misuse or misapplication of like proper theology. Those are the boundaries. I think other than that, we have quite a bit of freedom as how we communicate the gospel story.
Why do you think it is often, and I don't want to turn this into celebrity pastor, megachurch pastor bad, but why do you think often the guys that are the most charismatic and the most funny tend to have like the most remedial theology? Right? Where it's like, oh, bro, like we got to at least land the plane and get it right on the Trinity, or we got to at least get it right on like some of these basic things, right? What do you think of that? What do you think that is? Because I wish there was more guys that were charismatic and funny and good storytellers with regard. There's a couple like Vadi or Vodi. I've watched some of his stuff, and it's like, okay, he can command the crowd and he could tell a good story, but it's, we're gonna be honest. I mean, these guys, Mike Todd, the first, like they're really good storytellers.
Oh, they're good storytellers. They're really good speakers. Yeah. I think part of it is the danger of that, and everybody can fall into this danger. Is that they're so artistically minded and they're so good at that, where they ignore the other aspects. The opposite could be true. Like you get people who are really good at exegetical teaching and understanding, where they just ignore proper storytelling and stuff like that, right?
I feel like you push back. I feel like John Piper is like that. Whenever I've listened to a John Piper sermon, good, passionate communicator, but there's no narrative. It's literally like just text. Yeah, and I'm like, I like it, but like it doesn't speak to me the same way. I like that he's emotional, but it doesn't speak to me the same way.
Correct. Yeah, and we're all gonna get attracted to different stuff, and again, that's okay. Yeah.
Can you think of any pastors that do both really well? Because I can think of a couple, but I'd like to see if you have any.
Look, I think Greg Laurie's really good.
Ah, yeah.
I think Greg Laurie is. I've listened to him for years. I think he's balanced. I think he understands his theology.
Yeah.
He communicates his theology well. He's got this amazing ability of speaking about just life and current events. And he interprets texts. You know, like, I don't think I've ever listened to a Greg Laurie sermon where I've been like, he said something that's like very suspect. Whether I agree or disagree with him, like, it's been fine theologically. Where other people, I listen to it and they got the passion and they're talking about this and that, and then they'll throw in a passage and I'm like, what did you just do?
That's not what that means. That's not what that means. Yeah, great. I would agree. I think Pastor Greg Laurie is great. There's a pastor out here, two pastors. I would say my pastor, shout out Pastor Jeff Morris. I think he does a great job, and he can jump back and forth between like verse by verse teaching and then like into a story and then back into it. So I think he does a killer job. But there's the church that he came out of. I've had him on. His name is Pastor Chris Brown. No social media, no online presence, no book, no. Oh, maybe he's put out a book, but not that I know of. And he's an amazing storyteller, and he can communicate from the scriptures. Yeah,
and I think, look, traditionally seminaries have had homily classes. You know, you learn how to tell a story. I mean, I never took classes with, there's a guy named Don Sunukjian, who's Armenian, who's like a master preacher. He was the preaching teacher at Talbot School of Theology Seminary, and I heard and I've never heard this sermon. I heard it from someone because they were amazing. It was like a Christmas sermon he gave from the perspective of the shepherds. So that's like quite a bit of art in there, where you're putting yourself in the shoes and acting as how this would be revealed to you. That's a different kind of preaching than expository stuff. So this is a part of the preaching tradition.
Yes.
I think what people really care about, and people maybe like me who really care about, is to be faithful to the text. Don't say theologically suspect things. And you have great deal of freedom. Whether I'm going to be attracted to that or not is a secondary question. It's always going to be the case that some people are going to like your style and some people aren't. That's okay. That's fine.
That's good. We see, according to the Bible, that prayer is extremely important in terms of us being transformed from the inside out when we get aligned with God's will. For the Christians watching this channel, I want you guys to implement these spiritual disciplines in your day-to-day life. And the only way I've been able to do this consistently is through writing down my prayers in a prayer journal that does a few things. One, it allows me to reflect and come to God humbly and ask Him to move on my behalf. And two, it allows me to document my prayers, which ultimately help me remember the very things that I was praying for and see the hand of God tangibly in my life when He answers them. So I would urge you, consider writing down your prayers. It could be in a blank notebook. It could even be on your phone. Or you could check out the one I personally designed and used from my own quiet time and spiritual discipline that I think will be a huge blessing. It's the exact structure and system that I've used for years to pray and be more consistent in my spiritual disciplines. You can pick yours up today by clicking the link in the pinned comment below. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.